I wasn't really in the right mindset for competing when I was studying abroad in Wales. There's different paths to success. It doesn't have to be like the one model. The more I push myself, the results seem to follow. Running should be a very positive thing, and even though it's a lot of emotions, I think you can always take some of those bad ones and just accept them and know that there's going to be more good days or good times in the future.
If you've ever wanted to understand why we should be asking for nature's help on mindsets, adventures, and more, then you're in the right place. So welcome to Maximise Nature. Today's guest is Ethan. Ethan has completed the Philadelphia Marathon in an astonishing time of 2 hours, 17 minutes, and 3 seconds. We're going to explore with Ethan what his thought process was leading up to, during, and after the challenge, as well as how he thinks nature can provide the helping hands to people like you and me. Then, we can take the good thoughts and put them in a travel bag, ready to use on our next adventure. Let's introduce Ethan to everyone. Why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners, Ethan?
Hi, everybody. My name is Ethan Hermann. I'm from the United States, born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and then I went to university at Drexel University in Philadelphia, where I currently live and work.
How did you get into distance running? And why was this the one sport you chose to challenge yourself in?
I followed in the footsteps of my older brother. Nobody in my family, even like my extended family, did running, but he got into it when some of his friends asked him to join, and he loved it, and I kind of just wanted to do whatever my brother did. So whenever he went to college, I got into middle school, I was able to start doing cross country, and I just did it for the fun of it, because I played basketball first. That was my first and primary sport. And by 8th grade, I had seen some improvements, and I was excited to do what he did, which was run in high school, and go to invitationals, and do cross country in multiple places across the state, not just in my hometown, not the same course every week, And then through high school, I really liked the idea of just getting better over time, and I found how the more I push myself, the results seem to follow. And I think I kind of latched onto that, and then, everybody kind of gets hooked at some point or other. And I think the rest is just history from there.
It's definitely all about pushing yourself and essentially staying consistent with it, especially for you and definitely for me as well with running as well. What made you decide to go for the Olympic dream, and what events led you to turn this thought into reality?
It's definitely really hard in America to, I think, make the Olympics. We're one of the toughest countries. And, I didn't run for my university. We, America's a very different university athletic approach than, say, the United Kingdom. It's usually recruiting is very intense, and you reach out to coaches, and you go to certain schools truly for their athletics. And I was kind of a late bloomer, and we had a pretty competitive recruiting class in my year. So I didn't really go to university for athletics. I went for academics primarily, then continued to run, and that's where I really kind of blossomed my own rights. But when you're training in university, you do a lot of cross country and track, and that's those are your seasons. You have cross country in the fall. You have indoor or now short track in the winter, and then you have outdoor track in the spring, and it kind of bleeds into the summer. But when you are not a collegiate athlete, you kind of have to take your races where you can get them, which sometimes is just a lot on the roads. That's kind of where the post-collegiate lifestyle is. And so that means I kind of strayed away from, what I was used to, racing the mile or the 2 mile or the 5K on the cross-country courses. And I got into, 10-mile races on the roads or half marathons, and I found myself really excelling at that. I think earlier than expected for somebody my age. I was able to run 51:15 for 10 miles at the age of 19, and I was the first person, I think by my age by 3 minutes, something like that. But there's of course plenty of guys who are in college who are super fast, but it's just exciting to see somebody who, there's potential who could be on a college team but isn't. So I kind of forged my own path that way, and we understand that for almost every other country in the world, the marathon has a selection process for the Olympics. So, the three best get chosen, or there's a small trial setting. There wasn't going to be the Chris Thompson British trials without, having a trials. So I'm fully in support of that. And it allows a lot of amateur Americans, like I still think I'm an amateur in many regards, but it allows a lot of us to have a shot making the Olympics where on the track, if you don't have a shoe sponsor or you don't have like full-time support to be training either at a college or a university or like as a professional, it's very hard to make as an amateur in the track world just with how competitive and fast it can be. But, in the marathon, anything goes, and almost, usually it tends to be the pros. Like, I will not lie, like, us amateurs don't really get close to making the team as much as we would like. But, I have a friend of mine who got 16th and beat Galen Rupp at the last trials this February. So, there are definitely opportunities for us there. And that's where I felt like I kind of got a jump on the road racing from a lot of my friends who raced in college. I find myself having success with it. And so I think this is my only hope, I would say, for making an Olympic team one day. But even then, the chances are still slim. But I like my odds on the roads.
Yeah, I mean, I'm nowhere near your level. Like, you're completely different to like the typical like UK athlete, as it were. But I have no idea it was like that. I mean, I know roughly of the collegiate system, but not that it was pretty much, if you're not there, do it yourself. And I'm really like happy for you that you carried that out. Compared to like me and other people at uni, for example, it's not even funny.
It's funny because I felt like I think going into college I was a little bummed out because I think I really got in, like I was getting into running like seriously training a little bit late. I felt in high school, like where I'm from is a pretty solid like really strong running community and a lot of like really good schools and recruits, and so I kind of felt like I'd done all these 4 years of work to catch up to these people who I was trying to be like, and I was finally at their level my senior year, my guess like year 11 or year 12 for me, and I was like, oh well, they're gonna go run in college, I'm not, I'm gonna like lose this, and then a couple years later I'm like beating their times, or not all of them, but like some of them, and so I think it's felt very validating that there's different paths to success. It doesn't have to be like the one model, but I do love just how you can always find yourself like on a bad day or a good day, be like, well, we're all gonna have a bad day, we're all gonna have a good day. So it feels very nice knowing that I didn't have to go to university to continue to have those good days.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Everyone has great days, everyone has bad days, but it's about how you bounce back from the bad days and, not to be cliche, run into the good days, as it were. But with that in mind, what's your thought process around your thought process when setting yourself the challenge? And is there truth to the phrase, it's not as easy as it looks?
Yeah, I think it's definitely not as easy as it looks. I think what really helps is my coach and I always say this. So I have a coach who I've worked with since I was 18. Truly an opportunity that fell into my lap. Just a guy who lives in Philadelphia, who's a kind of a prodigy of a runner in his own right. And he saw me a couple, meets, and I was asking him questions because he was, 39, 40, running like 430 miles, and you're in like a 24:30 8K, and at age 40. So I was like, this guy clearly knows what he's doing, and he took me under his wing, and that just kind of helped me to, I think, trust in him. And once he became my coach, I knew that I had the best confidence. Yeah, so I think definitely not as hard as it looks, not as easy as it looks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I have a lot of trust in my coach. Where a lot of the mental worry about like, am I doing the right things? Am I doing enough? Gets taken away because he has the plan. And then I think it's all about, like I said earlier, with like good days and bad days. There are going to be days where just like doing enough is going to actually do like more than you think. I think a lot of us distance athletes always want to push ourselves like all the time, and are sometimes like let down. And we don't have even a great day when we like hope so. But I learned that really early on with him. Like his training is not like super like all out in training. You're very controlled, almost like the Ingebrigtsens in Norway. Like, and it's just a very classic. Like, it's very simple. It's like we're gonna do a lot of hard work, but we're gonna keep it so that your body can always do more hard work. And it's never like a peaks and valleys kind of thing where you have a really good workout and then you can't finish the next one. We want to always have a good workout plus a good workout plus a long run plus all these things. So I think, and that kind of resonates with me as an athlete, where I like the idea of just stringing things together, not like having like a yo-yo of good, bad, good, bad. Just when I have a challenge, I know it's kind of like I'm creating like a stairway instead of just like a zigzag. So I always think of it as like a mountain, but it's like I know that it takes a lot of steps to reach up to a mountain, not just like 4 leaps and bounds. So I feel very good, just getting and say, all right, what are my next 2 workouts? And then it's going to revolve around that. And then those have just taken me up however many steps. And then I'm on the next level going to the mountain. So I think that's kind of how I approach a challenge, is knowing that I have the confidence in my coach and he has his confidence in me. And that's mutual. And then the plan is going to put me in a position to, I think, at least be able to achieve it. I know it's not ever promised, but I know what we're doing will put me in a place to have a chance, and a pretty good one at that.
I definitely agree. It's about the environment. So if you feel supported, you're gonna reach what you want to. You depend on your environment, and obviously, if you have a really strong environment, you have coaches who support you, family members, friends who support you. You're gonna reach the level you want to reach, and you're gonna achieve or have a really good chance at achieving. And I think that's really important to get across, no matter what you're doing, whether it's distance running, walking, hiking, trailing. That's anything. Like, if you have a good environment around you, you're going to be great and you're going to smash it. With your marathon training and different training blocks, is there anything that you would change, say if you had a race in, say, a month or so?
I've only done one marathon, and I'm not going to do it another one for probably quite some time. Like the U.S. marathoning kind of works in cycles, at least for people my level. So we kind of wait for the next Olympic cycle to kind of come out, and then we can kind of plan of attack there. But for my next cycle, I think my coach is always tweaking his plans here and there, so I think I always get new stuff. Like, I just got my first 2 weeks of training for my next block, which starts on Monday, and he said to expect some new things. He works with a pretty well-known and renowned Adidas coach who has worked with him extensively for 2 decades now. So, I'm getting some Adidas tweaks to my training all the time, and then sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. And so I think for me, what I would definitely intentionally do, which I think is what my coach harps on, and I don't do enough of, are the little things. The pre-run mobility, just taking like 5. I work remotely, and some days I go from work right into a run, and that's just not good for your body or your muscles. And so I think taking those 5 minutes to just swing the arms, swing the legs, move the hips, move the ankles, like those kind of things, I would do differently and be better at, like more intentional at. And then just making sure that, every day I'm doing the little things outside of the run as well, not slouching in my chair, I'm not hunching over, I'm not like forgetting to like do enough, to drink enough water, all those things. So I think, I think I was very naive with my first marathon build, where I just knew as a fun challenge. I didn't put a ton of pressure on it. But looking back, I was like, oh, if I did this week, or I'd done that this week, or these little things right, I think that would have been even more successful, which is cool to say. I don't feel like I have maxed out anywhere close to my potential with the marathon. So that feels like good to say that I can start stacking small wins on small wins very, very easily.
Mm. Yeah, no, it's definitely the small wins that get you to where you need to go, or even greater than what you need to go. So you was talking about like long runs, because as a runner, you definitely have to do them, otherwise you're not going to get anywhere near the distance. Is there anything you've noticed whilst you've gone on those long runs, through like a park or something, that nature's helped you out either mentally or physically? Or is there something you've taken away from experiencing nature?
Yeah, I think I grew up in a city, and I live in a even bigger city now. It was wonderful for me because we're the only city school in Pittsburgh. There's the suburbs schools that have a lot of nice amenities and a lot of strong coaching programs and like 100 kids in their teams, and we had like 25. But we had like local parks we could run in every day, and I felt like it was much less of a chore. Like in America we have a lot of suburban neighborhoods. A lot of just like bigger roads and strip malls and not a ton of parks. And so I think sometimes running can seem like a chore when you're just like running through neighborhoods or like on like sidewalks. But for me, it was a favorite thing. I was like, I got to go to the park every day, and running
Mm.
became so natural and I think intertwined with nature. Um, in Philadelphia, we don't have a ton of green space, which is like one of our big downsides, but there are multiple trail systems you can connect, and I think that's one of my favorite things to do. But then also, I mean, I would there's two like bigger roads that kind of revolve around a river loop, and it's unfortunate the loop itself is closed for construction right now. One bridge, but the two roads are still open. And in the summertime, the West Road is closed on the weekends to cars, so it's just for cyclists and runners, walkers, rollerbladers, and it's like 4.5 miles one way, uh, lined with trees the entire way. I mean, like you're on a road. There's a bike trail, like a bike path. But I would do almost all of my long runs on that road. Like, and I would go. I'm talking back and forth for 20 miles. It sounds mental a little bit, but I found it was so calming. It was quiet. It was away from cars, which is hard to do in Philadelphia, and still be in the city. And 2 hours into a long run, I like look up at some trees. Like things get a little easier. I definitely feel like that was mental and physical, where I'm breathing in good air. I'm not breathing in car smoke for 2 hours. I'm like mentally in a much calmer place. I'm not worried about getting hit by a car. Not worried about anything like that. And just in general, like it just feels good to get out, and
Mm.
especially when the day to day, you don't really get out into a ton of green spaces. It felt like I was hitting my fill of green spaces for the week and all in like one long run. So I definitely prioritized being in a good nature forward environment when I was doing my long runs, and I felt that the long runs where I didn't do that, they didn't go as well.
Yeah, no, I definitely get you, especially like living back home compared to living in Cardiff. Like, um, Cardiff was so green, it was so lovely, even though it did rain a lot, but that's what you get for living in Wales. Yeah, no, I definitely think the nature aspect of it, like, I know I've certainly had my best runs, etc., and or even best walks when it's green, when it's like out in nature. I
Mhm.
just love it, really. Like, it's so calming, like you said. For anyone wanting to get into running, and I know been a massive trend, say on Instagram and other things. What would you say the basics
Mhm.
were to try and get into it? Is it just a pair of trainers, or is it just getting out there? Really?
I think it's definitely like you definitely need a pair of trainers. I think, and I wouldn't even say a pair of flashy ones. I would say a pair of good ones that can like last you for a
Mm.
long time if you feel comfortable and confident in. Um, and I really say like if you're just getting into running, like you have to be willing to try and have some bad days, and
Hmm.
but also just stick with it. And I say I wouldn't even try to compare yourself to anybody else until you've been running for 3 months,
Mm.
minimum. And I like running
Mm.
is such a personal and I think like individual journey, and you should definitely have goals, and your goals shouldn't be based on what your friends are doing, what an influencer is doing, and even if they're doing great things, like that's their journey. Like my journey has always been very different, even from people my age. I Most people don't do a marathon at 23. And I kind of had to convince my coach to let me do that, but it felt right on like my journey. And there are times where I certainly questioned if I could do a
Yeah.
marathon, if I, like
Yeah.
if I had it. Like I would come back from some runs and I'd just be like, I don't know if I can do this, but like that's the whole point. With running is you're always going to push yourself, and I think you can't like develop a healthy and strong relationship with running and distance running if you don't first do it for yourself for a period of time, or at least to reach a personal goal. Like there should never be a external goal until you've like gotten comfortable and confident in this
Mm.
world, because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people here already, but also if you're on the internet, there's a lot of people who could tell you a lot of things, and it's best to just be like, well, that's cool, but like for me, if I'm getting started, I want to say, all right, my goal is this. let's go for that. And then after that goal is
Yeah.
hit, I can say I have another goal, and then you can start realizing who around you has similar goals.
Yeah, I definitely say that's a lovely part of the sport, especially for me. When did I start? Maybe year 12, so that was 2019. Yeah, I can't lie. The first, what, 6 months to a year, I was just doing it for fun, and then it slowly built into slightly competitive.
Yep.
But I think it's really important, especially for like if you get injured, just remember you're doing it for fun. Yeah, the PB or whatever would have been lovely, but you're just doing it to a distract yourself from every day, which is the whole point of getting out into nature, and just to
Exactly.
literally have fun. Like, love the grind. Shout out Philly Bowden. But anyway, um,
I'm a big Philly Bowden fan as well. I'm a
mhm.
big fan.
Yeah, she's the only reason I got into Aldershot. I literally
Really?
DM'd
No,
her.
I did not.
Yeah.
I was so yeah. I mean, she's definitely like, and she comes over to America too for racing. Like,
Mm,
people in the States love her as well, just because of how
mm.
willing to be vulnerable she is. I think she's definitely one of the few people I'd say who has a good following. Like, it's very funny. I think the UK influencers are a lot more heartfelt than the US run
Yeah.
influencers.
Yeah.
Um, that's how I felt.
100%. Yeah.
I think it just has to do with the culture of running in the UK. I think it's a little more community. America's I think it's a little more not commercialized, but it's either like you're going big or you're going home, and like the park run community kind of help build that. A 5K here costs like $45 these days,
What?
so it's like very
Mad.
cool to have yeah, like if you want to do like a community 5K, it could be like with fees, and yeah, it's just how it goes. I think the community of park run is like also a great way to allow novice runners to hone it, like hone their skills and try without feeling like they should be intimidated by anything, because there's going to be people of all ages just showing up every Saturday, like people who never miss a park run and they still run 30 minutes. That's a great, I think, point to look at. Like, hey, this person will always be here and they're going to always, run around this time, but they're going to do it because they love it. And it's like, that's just a great way, I think, to see it. And also, it's a great way to get out in nature on a Saturday morning. It feels like I think you're getting back to like your roots with running, which is awesome.
What training maps / Strava maps, books, or social media posts have you used to help you organise your journey from when you started running to when you completed the marathon, for example?
I feel like
But
I always just say it's like for me, I love running. I'm never gonna stop running, so the fire is gonna always be burning. It's never gonna go out. I think for me, it's like finding ways to keep reigniting the fire. Um, I remember when I was 21, I was training for my first half marathon, and I was doing like training for an 8K race, which would be the same weekend. And then a lot of my friends did a half marathon about middle of September, and the race was in middle of November, so I had about 2 months. I got so fired up, I turned to my coach. I said, "Coach, I want to do the half marathon this year instead of the 8K." And he was like, we've been training for an 8K. And I was like, yeah. I was like, but we have 2 months. I was like, couldn't that be enough? And he was like, you already have enough, solid base training. We can see what we can do. He's like, it's going to be like a little harder and different. And I was like, okay. And I was about a little almost through. I was like a little halfway through. I felt just like burnout a little bit and just tired. And I went to visit my friend in a new place in Wisconsin. I'd never been before, and I'd never run there before. So I went for a long run there and just, kind of going in this beautiful point trail, like in woods near a lake. It's like just these colors that you don't really get in Pennsylvania, in other parts of the country. And I was just blown away. I was stopping, taking pictures. I didn't care about my pace at all. I didn't care about that I had a bad workout that week, and I was like running slow like, for the first like 12 miles, running slow. First 20K, and my last 5K, I was like, all right, I feel like a little better, like just genuinely rejuvenated. And I was like, I'm just gonna see like how it feels to run fast right now. And I was running, into the wind, like 25-kilometer winds, like just getting buffeted around. But just didn't even care. And I finished the run like so tired and like in need of like 2 meals. But I was like so happy with how I felt about running afterwards. And I think that was something I really look back to and always keep reminding myself about is my fire is never going to go out, but I always need to add like more logs or more wood or like more things to burn, right? So I need to have things to burn, or it's reasons to keep burning. And so the marathon build, a lot of the times it's such a big goal that keeps you there. Like I can't mess up. I have a really hard thing to do. But if I'm just like training in general for like the smaller races, I need to have a lot of reasons to just keep the fire burning. And like whether it's like going on a run in a new place or running with a new group or just like for a day, or doing like a no watch run or just like watching old videos that used to get you hyped up. I've been a fan of Tin Man Elite since I was like a freshman in college. Like watching their old videos from like 2019 has always kept me going. And I still do it to this day. I'll watch old videos from them, or listening to old running podcasts about like people who are pros now and like have been for quite some time. Like hearing them talk when they were like just leaving college or university, I think is very cool because it's a good perspective shift. To see that they had these dreams and they've now like kind of achieved them. So I think just finding all these reasons to say like, well, these people are giving their best and they're willing to talk about it or show it. And then also that like people around me are doing the same thing. So I think I do a mix of community and then like country to remind myself that it's always there. Like my training is very easy. It comes from my coach and I have full faith in it, but sometimes the why has to come from elsewhere.
Yeah. Quite often, like your why, yeah, you can think your why is, oh, you're going to run this race amazingly. It is important to have like, say, your family as your why, your faith as your why, your sporting idols as your why, kind of, so you can look up to them, as it were, and try and learn off of them. So I'd say for me, one of mine would be Kobe Bryant, just genuine, down to earth, but competitive at the same time.
And yeah, I must say, like I get it too. Like like not all my idols are running, but I think they, like you said, the mentality or like how they approached their sport or their like their goals. I think is you can take that and apply it to running.
What's one treat whenever you go on a run or a walk or anything that you like to have just to keep you going? That's just something, I don't know, makes you feel like you're at home all the time.
That's a good question. I feel like I do a lot of similar routes. I do like a lot of the same runs a lot, which sounds kind of boring, but it feels very nice if I'm having like a busy day or like a good day or a bad day. If I do have a good day, the run feels like it flies by. If I have a bad day, about half the way through the run, I'm so familiar. I don't have to think about my run. I don't have to like put any brain power to it. And like halfway through, I'm like, I'm like back. Like I'm back feeling like myself. So I think that's like creating good routes in that sense for me has helped, where they can always kind of transform a day or make a day even better. Just so my brain can kind of shut off and I can just enjoy the running portion of it. That's definitely a little way where I always feel like I'm at home. Like whenever I visit home, like my actual home, my parents' home, like I do one of my favorite routes. It's like I can go out the door, I could be half asleep, I could be, wide awake, but my body will just take me through the run, which is very nice.
Speaking of the home passions and you running at home, you like have that sort of treat where you treat yourself to a run where you don't necessarily have to think, it's sort of just ingrained in your memory as well. Let's play again. Let's play Sweet Truths. Ethan, your task is to tell me 3 things, 1 truth and 2 falsehoods about your adventure, and then I must pick the sweet truth correctly. Either I get the sweet victory of picking the truth, or you get the sweet victory of persuading me to pick incorrectly.
I can do. Is it about anything, or is it just about like running?
Anything that has some connection to nature, or like going outdoors, basically.
Yeah. I would say, despite running like almost my entire life and loving, being in nature, I still do not know how to ride a bike. Maybe not. You never know. I was a camp counselor for 4 years after being a camper for 6 years. So I spent like almost every summer of my childhood outside, through the entirety of it. The last one, I think, when it comes to nature, I could say a million things, but my favorite thing when it comes to nature, I think, is always going on like really big hikes. Like I love, like 12, 13, 14-mile hikes. I think the longer the better for me. When it comes to a hiking day, I want to like dawn till dusk, just like kind of like maximize my day when it comes to a hike.
Okay, right. With the bike, I kind of feel like when I met up with you in Cardiff like a year and a half ago, you said that, and I kind of think that is the truth, but we're going to entertain the other ones.
Oh. Sorry, I told two truths and a lie. My bad.
Oh,
Um, the bike one is
love it.
true. The bike
I
one is
thought
true.
so.
Sorry,
I thought
I'm used to
so.
play. Yeah, sorry. When it comes to nature, yeah, I'd say I'm really big into like swimming. So if I can like can go on like a hike and then end at like a lake, I really like that. Like just being able to hop in a swim, like just cool off and everything. I'm really into like cool flowers. Like my mom has a garden, but I always like will like stop and look at all the flowers. I think they're just like really cool during a hike. Like take a lot of photos. And then the last one. I really like it when it like when it rains in the trails. I think it's like a very good smell. Like in the trail after it rains, like it's like a graft like is very soft and everything, and like you can kind of like move through it pretty easily and like not like make too much noise.
Okay. With the swimming one at the end of a run, would you do this every week or just occasionally?
Just like not with like running, but more so like with like naturing in general.
Okay. If you're so into flowers, what's your favorite flower?
I love a either a hydrangea or a 4 o'clock.
What's the 4 o'clock?
4 o'clock is a flower my mom grew in our garden. They have a bunch of little seeds. They kind of come out. They have like nice little like green. They have the flower itself with like green petals as well. And they produce like a black seed, so they kind of can grow. They can regrow every year by itself.
What was the last one?
I love it like when it like after the like a trail when it rains. Like I think it's just like the smell's super nice. It's like quiet. Like everything's like tamped down.
Okay, right. Cut to the point. I'm gonna go with the flowers is the truth. I don't know why, but I'm gonna go for that.
It is, yeah. I hate like wet socks and like I can't do a swim and a run. Like I will do it if like somebody really wants to, but for me it's like wet shoes, wet socks, like
Hmm.
cannot stand it.
No,
Um,
no.
and I the only few things I hate more than that are mud. I hate wet trails. Like I need like a dry trail. I need it to be like springy and like that's why I'm running on soft surface. Like I want the comfortable crunch of the leaves of the trail. Yeah, the flowers are great. Like I grew up loving flowers, my mom and my brother are the exact same way. So I will always stop and like take like a flower or a tree photo, if I can, on a run. So I think that's an easy one for me.
There's something just so like simplistic but beautiful about that. I've definitely stopped quite a few of my runs, sort of towards like the end or whatever, and just taken a photo, and it's just so nice. And I also knew
Oh,
that you hate water because the amount of times I've seen it on. I scrolled through your Strava before like today, and you hate water.
not a big one. I am, but
No.
I'm definitely more of a land guy. Definitely more of a
Yeah,
land guy.
100%, 100%. Okay, well that makes it 1-1. Now, Ethan, for the listeners, when you get to that finish line, or whatever the high point in whatever adventure you may do or have done, what do you remember about the moment? And just so people listening can live the experience vicariously, because you said it yourself on your Instagram that you were already looking forward to smiling your way through your next race or your next adventure.
Yeah, I think it feels really rewarding. I think I had like with my marathon year, it was a very big build, not for the biggest I've ever done before. I had a pretty rough week emotionally with that week, so I felt very subdued
Hmm.
finishing my journey just with a lot of family stuff going on. So I didn't really feel like I was able to even celebrate that as an accomplishment, just because I felt like I was. It somehow became a lot less about me, a lot more about my family. So it felt very like rewarding to accomplishment, but I just felt a lot of other things outside of that, and I kind of didn't take time to reflect and look at that kind of aspect. That's kind of why then I had a lot of other more running political stuff happen with the race afterwards, unfortunately. But I think that's kind of why I knew like there was such a big build up and goal that I kind of strive for, but just so much kind of happened to revolve around the race. I didn't feel like I had really
Hmm.
achieved what I had set out to do, even though I
Hmm.
had time wise. So I kind of wanted to pin my next adventure already as a one where I know will be good. And so that's kind of the whole that was the whole goal for me, where I really wanted to get to just finding a new one. And I didn't know what it was yet, but I think like
Yeah.
knowing that the payoff didn't really happen with the last one, so I do want to really get hopefully something more. So I think that's the goal.
Oh no, I'm sorry to hear about that. Because yeah, I remember it was a really difficult time for you, and it really sort of hones in on the whole point of like why you run, and like you don't want to go or even like travel too fast because all you'll miss you'll miss who you're traveling for, basically. Like, you want to run, but you want to run because you're enjoying it, not because something else is on your mind. You're trying to get away from whatever is on your mind, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like running should be a very positive thing, and even though there's a lot of emotions, I think you can always take some of those bad ones and just accept them, and like know that there's gonna be more good days or good times in the future.
Speaking of future adventures, I imagine that running like your goal time is a dream of yours. Where do you see your next adventure? It doesn't have to be running. It can be going to, say, New Zealand, Australia, or like doing anything else. Where do you think your next adventure lies?
Next big, I have small ones here and there. I think my next big adventure would hopefully be to compete internationally. Not of course like saying for America or anything, but just so many incredible runners come to the United States to compete. From Kenya, Ethiopia, UK, Ireland. We get a lot of incredible athletes to come here and race against us. But I think it would be really cool. I didn't really compete. I wasn't really in the right mindset for competing when I was studying abroad in Wales. And I'd like to go back. I think I was talking with Adam Eade actually about this, a Cardiff Met runner. My goal is to come back hopefully next fall for the Cardiff Half Marathon. I think that'd just be a great way to do a full circle. See a lot of people who I made awesome friendships with, but also actually race in a city that I think helped me grow and learn a lot about myself with running and with myself as a person. I think a very good moment, and it's such a competitive and prestigious race. It's part of like an international group of half marathons that are like recognized as like high quality races. I think now it's like Valencia and Dublin and Cardiff and a couple others. And so I think like Sevilla, like some of these like world class half marathons that are recognized. And my half marathon is probably my strongest race event, and I would like to have the opportunity to travel and represent my city, my track club, and in this case, even though it's not like professionally for America, at least like I want to put out a good showing for the States if I'm coming across to Cardiff. So I think that's my next big running adventure. My next big adventure for personal will depend on, I think where the missus wants to go for a fun vacation. It's not just me anymore. But, I think it's easier for people in the UK and in Europe to, to travel to like Croatia or Moldova or somewhere awesome like that. In America, if we fly a couple hours, we're just in another state. But I think we might go to Mexico City. She really likes it there. So I think that's probably my next big adventure. But yeah, it can't happen without her. So
Yeah. Do you promise to come back and tell us about it? Because we'd love to hear about it.
absolutely, yeah. I think if I'm in Cardiff, it'll be an in-person thing. That'll be very easily done.
Just like to say thank you very much for joining us on this episode, Ethan. One last task. You can either message me on Instagram or whatever. I just need you to write down one nature phrase that I need to get into my next podcast without my guest knowing.
Okay, can do. Thanks for having me, Max. It's a great time. Best of luck. Have a good summer, man.
Until next time, get out and explore what's beyond your front door.